Chuck's Mensa Speaks edition. We are very glad to welcome Chuck Mensa today, who is the president of the Society of Black Renaissance. Welcome, Chuck Mensa.
Thank you very much for this opportunity that is given to me to express myself. I'm extremely thankful and really grateful.
In today's edition, we will go through the heavy stance on Abrahamic religions in Chuck Mensa writings, political writings. But before moving into our subject, we would like to really discuss some of the news that are coming up from the continent. Kemi Seba has been detained 2 days ago. Has been detained in Mali upon his arrival at the airport, at the international airport in Mali. And he is, for those who don't know, Kemi Seba is the leader of the NGO Pan-Africanist Emergencies. As we speak, he's been released after several hours of interrogation on the reasons of his visit to the country. And another important thing to know is that his detention has triggered strikes from the African diaspora in Paris. Chuck Mensa, we would like to hear from you before moving into our topic today.
I would like to really condemn the detention of Kemi Seba. There is no need for Kemi Seba to be detained anywhere in Africa. Kemi Seba is not the problem on this continent, and I believe Kemi Seba is shedding the light on some of the major problems that this continent is facing. What has happened to Kemi Seba is nothing other than the continuation of a pattern of persecution aiming at stopping him from speaking out against French imperialism and neocolonial domination in Black Africa. And we have to recognize that Kemi Seba has been extremely vocal about the CFA franc, this clear reminder of the French domination in Black Africa. The CFA franc, that was the currency that was imposed by the French on the aftermath of the fake independence of the 60s to keep controlling and economically and financially speaking the former colonies in Black Africa, in West and Central Africa precisely. So it's a clear reminder of French domination. So I strongly agree with Kemi Seba when he voices his opinion against the CFA franc. There is no need for the CFA franc. And for him to be detained, as I've said, this is the continuation of a pattern. Kemi Seba has been persecuted. Kemi Seba has been persecuted in Senegal. He has been persecuted in many West African countries. And this shows again that our government are deeply aligned with French imperialist interests, because what is happening, it is actually the neo-colonial machine that is actually lashing out at Kemi Seba in an attempt to make him shut up, in an attempt to stop what he has started. But, I would like to condemn the detention of Kemi Seba, and I would like to condemn the Malian authorities for such an act. But I'm not surprised, because the Malian authorities, just like all the government in French-speaking Black Africa, they are all totally sold out to French imperialism. As I've said, we don't have rulers on this continent, especially in the French-speaking West African zone. These are all leaders, these are all puppets to French imperialist domination. And I'm glad that the African diaspora in Paris is protesting against the new currency that they're trying to implement, the ECO. And I would like to remind the listeners that I've been one of the first ones to publicly condemn the ECO, to publicly express my disagreement about the ECO. There is no need for the ECO, because first of all, the ECO will be in the end just the continuation of the CFA franc. It is not about implementing a new currency. It is about the total liquidation of French imperialist domination. This is the only pathway toward economic prosperity for French-speaking West Africa. This is it. The current failed ruling elite is trying to portray the ECO as a type of progress in this particular direction. This is not true. The ECO is not a new thing. We need to remember, when these leaders are coming around and bring the ECO, dangle the prospect of a new currency, We need to remember that this is not the first time the ECO was supposed to be implemented years ago, but each time the African ruling elite has postponed it. The only different thing this time around is that French-speaking West African countries are officially speaking about to dump the CFA fund and to jump on the ECO bandwagon. But this is because France is okay. This is because the ECO will not liquidate French imperialist interests, but we actually perpetuate the French domination across Black Africa. This is why the French puppets in power in French-speaking West Africa are supporting the ECO. The ECO is a scam. The ECO is a scam. It's a total distraction. What we need is a total economic liberation. We do not need this type of reformist ideas as the solutions to these deep-seated flaws within the modern Black African society. In the context of the issue of the economic exploitation of this continent, particularly speaking in West Africa, we know what happened. This is neocolonialism. And this is not just in French-speaking West Africa, in countries like the Ivory Coast, in countries like Togo. In Nigeria, which is the largest economy in the whole Black Africa, and by far the largest economy in West Africa. Nigeria too is a puppet state. Nigeria is a puppet state, probably the biggest puppet state in the whole Black Africa. We see what happened in the Niger Delta, where the oil of the nation, the oil of the Niger Delta, is being taken away by foreign interests. Total economic exploitation, which led to the destruction that we are seeing right now of the environment, one of the worst ecocide in human history. This is what the Nigerian state is doing. Total is selling out to foreign interests. So we know what we have on this continent, especially in West Africa. This is the total domination of neocolonial forces that are keeping the Black African people in bondage. This is what is happening. So we not expect this government to come up with any type of financial plan that will lead to the economic restoration of this continent. Why? Because they have all sold out to the enemies of this continent. The ECO is a distraction, and we should never tolerate the ECO. What we need is a total liberation of West Africa and, above all, the whole Black Africa. But when it comes to this issue of the ECO, I have been and I will always be totally against the ECO. This is a distraction. What is needed is a total liquidation of imperialist domination, starting with the French neocolonial forces on this continent.
Thank you, Chuck Mensa. We will be following in the coming hours, days, regarding this mobilization of the African diaspora in France. Thank you very much. Next, we are now moving on the your heavy stance regarding Abrahamic religions. Just to set the scene for our audience, can you please let us know what is your understanding of Abrahamic religions? What is your perspective regarding these three most important religions in the world?
When we talk to Abrahamic religions, which are actually the religion coming from Judaism, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism itself, as far as the Black Renaissance, we are totally, personally speaking, as the leader of the Black Renaissance and as my movement, we are totally against the Abrahamic religions. These religions are the religions of mental slavery. I will never say it enough. These religions are the religion of mental slavery. They are the religion of the colonizers of this continent. They are the religion of the enslavers of this continent. So this is how we perceive it. In fact, we consider the struggle against Abrahamism as one of the cornerstones of our overall struggle for the liberation of the Black continent. Because as a movement, what we want in the Black Renaissance, it is not a pure, just a material liberation of this continent. No, it's not just about the material liberation of this continent. We want also the continent to be liberated from the spiritual dictatorship of foreign religions, from the spiritual dictatorship of Abrahamism. We need the resurrection of African spirituality. This is what we want to bring about for this continent. We are not seeing this struggle solely and uniquely speaking in material terms, in the sense of addressing the economic exploitation of this continent, in the sense of strictly liberating this continent from the shackles of neocolonial domination. We are seeing the struggle for African liberation in a bigger light, in a spiritual light, and we see it as in our views, it's also necessary to liberate the continent from the scourges of Abrahamic religions, so as to lift the veil of metaslavery. So we will always ideologically fight against Abrahamic religions because in the end, what we want is a total liberation of the Black African people, a material and spiritual liberation. We want the end of neocolonial domination, and we want the end of the spiritual dictatorship of the Abrahamic religion. We want the spiritual resurrection of the Black continent.
Thank you for that, for clarifying this for our audience. We are going now to move back in time into Black Africa history. Can you present to us your view of the colonization strategy that was applied on Black Africa, just for us to really understand what happened and really be able to understand the Society of Black Renaissance narrative of the colonization that took place in Black Africa?
Well, I mean, and you mean the role that religion, Christianity played in the colonization of this continent, that's what you mean?
Exactly, and the strategy, how they went about, yes, doing that. Thank you.
Well, the colonization of this continent was really a sad event, but as I said, we need to understand, we need to stop having this reductionist views of this fundamental aspect of our brutal history. The colonization of the Black continent by European forces was actually a war. It was actually a war not only to gain control of African resources, but a war not only to politically subjugate the Black continent. It was also a war to enslave the African mind. It was also a war against the soul of this continent. What I'm talking about is the struggle that has been waged at the same time with the struggle for political control, at the same time with the struggle for material control of this continent, the struggle against African spirituality. Yes, the colonizers of this continent waged an unforgiving struggle against African spirituality, against what used to be called African traditional religions. So we need to understand, when we talk about colonization, we always need to remind ourselves that the presence of Christianity on this continent as one of the major religions of this continent is thanks to the colonization. Right? Without colonization, there is no Christianity as a leading religion. So that shows us the major correlation between both. Yes, Christianity, the presence, actually the high place of importance that Christianity has today on the Black continent, is an usurpated position. It's a position that came from the domination, the subjugation of African lands by the Europeans. Yes, Christianity was, is, and will always be a tool of European domination. This is how Christianity has, oppressed and, brainwashed the Black African people, as we can see through the historical process. Yes, during the colonization, yes, these colonizers were not just trying, I will never say it enough, it's really important for us to remember, the colonization wasn't just a war for the control of African resources. The colonization was also a war for the control of the African mind. This is what the colonizers didn't just try, they were not just seeking to take control of our resources, they were also seeking to take control of our mind. This is why they imposed their religion, Christianity, on us. So yes, the Society of the Black Renaissance, we see the colonization of this continent for what it was, a multi-dimensional war against the African people. There were many ramifications to this war, and the religious ramification of this war must never be understated. They must never be forgotten. Yes, Christianity is the religion of colonization.
Thank you. Thank you for this. I've been going through your political writings and what we call the Mensa literature. So regularly point at Christianity have recently turned into lucrative business in Africa. And I would really like you to please break it down for our listeners, maybe who still have yet to come to understand the truth about what is Christianity, how it is being, just being used to enrich a certain group of people.
Well, I mean, clearly Christianity is a business. It's a business for whoever want to face the reality, for whoever is honest enough to see for what it is. It is a business allowing the few to financially and mentally enslave the many. This is what we are seeing all over this continent. Christianity has become a business, a major lucrative tool for a minority of really dishonest individuals, many of the so-called pastors, the so-called priests, the so-called religious elite. It's a really dishonest religious elite what we are seeing on this continent. They are lying to these people. They are lying to the brainwashed Black African masses. They are actually taking advantage of these victims of, the economic exploitation of our motherland. This is what is going on. It's a scam, right? It's a scam, it's a business. This is why many of these pastors are becoming millionaires. Why many of them are becoming millionaires. We see it all over. Nigeria, South Africa, in Kenya, we see Christianity for what it is today on this continent. It has become a scam. It is a way for the few to actually financially enslave the many. Swindling money from the poor masses of Black Africa that are locked up in the shackles of, imperialist economic exploitation and that are defenseless. And these people are preying on the masses, right? This is really bad what is going on. And yeah, Christianity is a business. But I'm not surprised. We shouldn't even be surprised because Christianity has always been a tool of exploitation, right? Christianity has predominantly, throughout its history, being a tool of exploitation. During the Roman Empire, Christianity was already a tool of exploitation. We saw it again during the colonization of this continent. Christianity was a tool of exploitation. So I'm not surprised today. And, it has always been, a tool of exploitation for the few to control the many, for the elite to control the masses. And what the religious elite, the Christian religious elite, is doing today in Black Africa is not something new. It's actually what Christianity is, a tool of exploitation. And that shows again that Christianity don't have no place on this continent. What Christianity has done for this continent, nothing. The continent is lost today. The continent is totally enslaved economically, totally subjugated politically. What Christianity has done, Christianity has further, spiritually speaking, the enslavement of the African people. There is no future for Christianity on this continent. Black Africa needs to be liberated from the scourges of Abrahamism.
Thank you, Chuck Mensa. This couldn't be clearer regarding this topic on this mental slavery that is actually going on the Black continent. Thank you for that. We would like to now also get to another aspect of your political writings. Can you please explain to us the connection between Christianity, Islam, and Judaism as tool of oppression against Black people?
Well, the first thing between all of them is that, they are all Abrahamic religions. I mean, they all, in the end, they all bow down to the principle of the preeminence of the Jewish spiritual worldview above all others. So this is it. They all come down to the Jewish prophets. That's why they all use the same prophets. That's why the Muslims, that's why the Christians use the same Hebrew prophets. It's all the same. In the context of Black African history, yes, there's no denying that these religions have been used as spiritual tools furthering the material oppression of the Black African people, as I've said during the colonization. We saw it during slavery. The Europeans would have never been able to take control of this continent without Christianity. There would have never been Arab slave trade, or what we call the Oriental slave trade, in the scale to which it has happened in the past and still happening today, because Black African people, are still in many parts of the Arabic world. The Black African people is still enslaved. While you're in Africa, on the northwestern edges of West Africa, we got the Mauritanian state. We got Mauritania, where the Black African people is still enslaved today, as I'm speaking, in Mauritania. But whoever know the Mauritanian society from within, whoever know about the Mauritanian society, we need to know that this system of enslavement of the Black African people is ideologically underlined by Islam. Islam is the ideological foundation of the slave society that is the Mauritanian society today. But this is not the first time. As I said, the Arab people would have never been to enslave us for so long without Islam. So yes, clearly these two Abrahamic religions that are coming both from Judaism in the end have been used as tools of exploitation of the Black African people. And we are still spiritually blind to this matter today. We are still spiritually enslaved to these religions, and there is no future for them on this continent. As long as the veil of mental slavery will still be maintained on this continent, the continent will be still in shackles. We still remain in the shackles of foreign domination. We need to liberate this continent, and there is a need to do away with the religions of mental slavery.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to explain these concepts that are very key for our audience to really understand what is at play on the continent. Moving on to the Islamist violence that is currently raging in different locations in Africa. Chuck Mensa, what is the scale of this, what we call the Islamist violence? It's affecting the Black continent. We are hearing different stories in the news. Can you please just let us know what is the scale of it? And also, do you believe that there's a concerted strategy at the African leaders level to counteract it?
Okay, thank you for asking me this question, because this question shed a light on a plight, that has been frankly very often, forgotten, that have been frankly very often overlooked. This is the plight of these African civilians, these Black African civilians that are being murdered, that are being killed, that are being brutalized by Islamic terrorist groups, while our government are totally defenseless. Well, what is happening in this continent is really bad. We are under attack. We are victims of a jihad. The violent forces of radical Islam have started a war on this continent. This is a religious war. This is a jihad going on. There is no sugarcoating it. There is no lying to the people like the failed ruling elite in Black Africa has been doing so far. And we are seeing the consequences. Today, in West Africa, for example, the situation is not only confined to Nigeria or the Lake Chad. We got a jihad going on in Burkina Faso. We got the jihadists of the Islamic State attacking civilians in Burkina Faso, shedding blood in Mali. You got Al-Qaeda's affiliate in Mali. We still have Al-Shabaab in Somalia. As far as the Islamic State is concerned, we need to remember that when it comes to the Islamic State, since the group has been expelled from its original territories in Iraq and Syria, since the group has lost control of its territories in Iraq and Syria, there has been a strategic focus of the group into expanding the jihad globally. And one of the parts of the world where this jihad is actually expanding is actually Black Africa, because of the weaknesses of our government that are totally unable to mount the effective defenses that are needed to actually stop the advance of this terrorist organization, to actually stop the advance of violent Islam, to actually stop the advance of the violent forces of Islam. But what we are seeing is a total progression of these forces. What we are seeing is that the jihad is growing, the jihad is increasing in scope. Now the situation is not only in West Africa, all the way up until Austral Africa, all the way up until Mozambique. We have an Islamic insurgency that, with a lot of indications, we know that there is ties with the Islamic State in the northern province of Cabo Delgado in Mozambique. In the Congo today, the Islamic State has an affiliate over there too. There are a lot of indications pointing to the fact that the ADF Nalu, which is a Ugandan rebel group that have been in the Congo for decades, has actually, joined ISIS. So what we are seeing is an infiltration of this continent by Islamic forces. It's a proliferation of jihad on this continent. This is dangerous for the future of this continent. In East Africa, we got the Islamic State in Somalia. But 2 days ago, we need to remember the Ethiopian army announced that they have captured some members of the Islamic State in Ethiopia. So now there's indication that the jihad is spreading even inside Ethiopia. This continent is in danger, and this continent is under attack. But why the attacks are keep coming? Why the attacks are keep causing more and more harms to African people is because the leadership is unable to mount the defense. We need to understand two things of fundamental importance in this matter. The first thing is, as long as Islam remains on this continent, there will always be Islamic violence. The jihad that we are victim of today is not the first jihad. We need to remember, especially in West Africa, there used to be Usman Danfodio, a few centuries ago, Usman Danfodio was waging a jihad in West Africa. There is an history of jihad on this black continent. And like many people, and like many organizations that are too dishonest, ideologically speaking, the Society of the Black Renaissance does not see the roots of jihad outside of Islam itself, like some people try to do to brainwash the masses, try to do to keep the masses spiritually enslaved to the fake religions of mental slavery, try to say that, there is a good Islam and this is a bad Islam. No, there's no such thing as a good and bad Islam. Islam is Islam. Muhammad himself was a warlord. Muhammad himself was a warlord. What does he tell us? Islam is the religion of war. The most important possession that the Islamic world has gotten, Medina, Mecca, the Islamic religion took it by warfare. It's through warfare that Muhammad and his followers took control of the cherished possessions of Medina and Mecca, the so-called holy sites of Islam. Islam is the religion of war. So we are not surprised, I'm not surprised personally, when Islam is creating violence on this continent. But we are at a historical crossroads. We need to understand that something has been taken from us. Through centuries of oppression, we have lost our dignities. We have been enslaved to the powers of this world. And one of these systems, one of these ideological conceptions keeping us enslaved, is this beliefs in this domination of foreign religions over us. It's the enslavement of the African spirit to the foreign religions, to the religions of the enemies of this continent, to the religions of the enslavers of this continent. But at the point we have gotten today, we have to make a choice because the jihad is waging, the jihad is expanding, and we need to stop the jihad. We need to eradicate the violent forces of Islam from this continent before it's too late. But furthermore, what we need is a spiritual awakening of the Black continent. We need to lift the veil of mental slavery. We need to bring about an end of the domination of these religions that have kept the Black African people enslaved for so long, brainwashed for so long, the religions that are perpetuating mental slavery. This is the solution. But as long as Islam is concerned, in the specific case of Islam, what Islam is doing today, this is what Islam has always done. Violence and more violence. For the Islamic violence to stop, we're going to have to liberate ourselves from Islam altogether.
Thank you, Chuck Mensa. We are coming to the end of our call, but I just wanted to for you to just come back a little bit on one of the stance from the global media. What we hear from all these media outlets is that we are supposed to make a separation between the good Muslims and the other, the bad Muslims, the one who are currently waging the jihad against, in different locations in this world. What is your view on this?
Oh yeah, that's a really good clarification. Where they have it completely twisted, because whatever they call the bad Muslims, whatever they call the terrorists, are actually the good Muslims. And I'm about to explain myself. These people, these radical Muslims, these violent extremist elements that are the jihadists, as we call them, are actually the real Muslims, because most of these people are fighting actually for the expansion of Islam. These people are following the example of Muhammad. These people are not sitting in their houses. These people are not sitting in the West talking about, Islam. No, they are fighting for Islam. So yes, these are the real Muslims. It's a total misconception that, that is brainwashing the masses to try to portray these people as, the bad Muslims. No, whatever they are doing, the jihad they are waging right now, the wars they are fighting right now, Muhammad did the same kinds of war. As I've said, Muhammad himself took over Medina and Mecca through warfare. Islam expanded in the context of warfare. Without warfare, there was no Islamic conquest of Egypt. Without warfare, there could have never been any Islamic conquest of Persia. So the Islamic world was created through warfare. Islam is the religion of war. I will never say it enough. And so for these people to try to, it's actually the global media trying to, to maintain Abrahamism on the world. Because, the elites that govern this world, the rulers of this world, the corrupt rulers of this world need the masses to still be, they still need to keep the masses, spiritually enslaved to these fake religions. And this is what is going on. But as far as my Black Africa is concerned, as far as my motherland is concerned, there is no future for these religions. There is no future for Christianity and Islam. There is no future for it, especially Islam. When it comes to Islam, we need to face the reality. There is no such, no, it's not accurate. No, there was jihad in Black Africa before today. Usman Danfodio did a jihad in Black Africa. There was many jihadi states in the Fouta Djallon in Guinea today. What is Guinea today? In the Fouta Toro, in what is Senegal today. There is an history of jihadism in Black Africa. We got our own history of jihad. So when they are trying to portray the Islamic violence we are seeing today, when they are trying to portray the jihad we are seeing today as a type of manipulation orchestrated by forces that are exterior, but that are foreign to Islam, this is a pure act of demagoguery. The source of Islamic violence is deep within the Quran. The seeds of jihad that we are seeing in Black Africa today, the seeds of the jihad that we are seeing on our motherland today, have been planted in the Quran. This is why wherever on this continent, where the Quran is heavily, where the population are heavily brainwashed with the Quran, wherever there's a lot of these madrasas, which are the Islamic schools, we see a proliferation of jihad. I mean, where Boko Haram is located today in Northeast Nigeria, these are zones where people have been brainwashed by Islam for the longest. In Somalia, where Al-Shabaab is located, where today the Islamic State in Somalia is located, these are zones where the population have been brainwashed by Islam for the longest times. You can't have what is happening in Black Africa today in a country like Japan, because Japan don't have the virus of Islam within its society. The problem is not anybody, it's not any force outside of Islam orchestrating any violence. No, the problem is Islam is a violent religion in itself. The sad reality is that people are not honest enough to say it. People are too scared to speak up. But we have created this society to liberate the Black African continent through ideological struggle. All we have is our words of freedom. So guess what? We're going to have to use them. That's all we have. And we need to remove the veil of mental slavery. The Black African people is today kept into spiritual blindness by these very major religions on this continent, which I repeat are the religion of the enslavers. Christianity can today, the Christians and the Muslims can today say what they want, but we will never forget that they are the religion of the enslavers of this continent. What we need is the spiritual resurrection of the Black continent. Islam will always be what it is, a tool of Arabic imperialism and an extremely violent religion. Christianity will still be what it has always been, a tool of Western imperialism. So we need to understand we are at a crossroad. And when it comes to Islam, it's time to open our eyes. It's time to lift the veil of mental slavery. It's time to see this construct for what they are. They have been brought on this continent to keep us enslaved in subjugation. And this is what is perpetuating itself today. But we in the Black Renaissance, we say no. We in the Black Renaissance say no to the desecration of Black African dignity. And we will always resist until the total liberation of this continent. We will always fight for the emancipation of our brothers and sisters that are still being brainwashed by these religions, that are still being kept enslaved by the religion of mental slavery. We want a new Africa, an Africa totally liberated from neocolonialism, but above all, an Africa totally free, totally spiritually free from Abrahamism, an Africa that has resurrected spiritually. This is for such Africa that we are fighting for. So when it comes to Islam, we need to understand and we need to face the truth. Islam will always be what it has always been, the religion of war. And Islam is proving it today again on the Black continent. There is no time to deny reality. It's time to face reality. And it's time to see things for what they are. We need to create a new Africa. And we believe in the Black Renaissance that this Africa will be great and strong. We'll never be great and strong. And we'll never be able to secure a rightful place of leadership among mankind without a spiritual revolution taking place. We need to uproot foreign religions. We need to liquidate the foundation of mental slavery. We need to liberate this continent from the scourges of Abrahamism, we need to bring about the total resurrection, the total spiritual awakening of the Black African people.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mensa.